Is this tool legit to quit, or is it the real deal? This is the Recon M1 caliper measuring thing that goes on miter saws. It'll fit on the DeWalt. It'll fit on the Festool. It'll fit on a variety of different miter saws. If you're like me, you've seen this all around the internet on a ton of different Instagram posts and stuff like that featuring this tool. And when I first saw this, I was like, wow, that is super cool. But I was also a little skeptical. So after seeing this so many times, I thought, man, I got to try this for myself. So I ordered this on Amazon with my own money to try out. Let's see what it does. Now it comes well packaged. It comes in a nice hard foam case. It's going to protect it while in transport, or you can use this to store this in while you're not using it as well. One thing that I was a little surprised by was for $149, you couldn't include some AA batteries. Come on, man. I just so happen to have these Eneloop rechargeable batteries. They're my favorite type of batteries. I use them in my cameras and everything else. And so we're going to use those to get this started. So to attach this thing to a miter saw is super simple. There's no assembly required other than you providing your own batteries. So all you have to do is just squeeze this little clamp and it will fit on most any miter saw from what I can tell. It fit well on my DeWalt, fits really nice on the Festool. Even with both of these miter saws, they have those ridges to help support that fence. You can easily position this around those. And to get it off, there's a release button underneath. You push up and it comes right off. Once it is in position, all you do is just push and hold the power button down and it will come on. This arm here will not go the other way just because of the angle of the dangle.
Like in the angle of the dangle?
But when you push it this way, you see that it will roll and basically it's spring loaded so to allow different thicknesses of wood. Now how thick we can go, we'll measure in just a second. One thing about this unit is it is not just in inches for those of you that are not in America. All you have to do is push this little button right there, little saw blade looking button with a tape measure, and then it's going to switch to fractions in inches. It'll also go to decimals in inches, which will be more accurate in my opinion. And then you can also cycle to centimeters, millimeters, and also meters, and then back to decimals in inches. Anytime after a cut that you want to zero it out, you're just going to push that button on the left and it will zero this out. Now we have to calibrate this so we know we get exact cuts every single time. To calibrate it, all we're going to do is hold these two buttons on the left down and push this button once. So about 20 minutes later, I'm trying to calibrate this thing and I got frustrated. The instructions that come with this, it's a little pamphlet that has nothing on it other than scan this code to go see the instructions. Scroll down for the instructions. The first thing I come to is a video, and I watched the video and I couldn't get this thing to calibrate. I was starting to get frustrated, even messaged Recon on Instagram and haven't heard back from them. But under the video, if you scroll down, it says to turn the power off to this and then do the calibration steps. So that was the key. Once I'd done that, I was able to calibrate it, no problem. Moral of the story, scroll a little further, read all the directions before starting. To calibrate this is really simple. All you do is get at least a 6-foot long board, a little longer actually helps better, and cut one end of it to square it up. Once you put this in calibration mode, then make that first cut. You want to make sure this board is really nice and straight. Once you make the cut, just push that button and we got to go to 6 feet. So we're going to measure out 6 feet on this board, make a mark just like you see here. Once that's done, you're going to slide it under this wheel, keep in contact with the wheel and the fence the whole time until that mark gets to the exact left side of your blade. Once it is in position, you push the enter button again and your calibration is done. So before you start cutting, after you get it calibrated, you need to set your blade kerf. For mine, it's 2.5 millimeters. I know, millimeters. It's a Festool blade. You can check your blade's width, and most of them probably are going to be about an 1/8 inch, depending on what blade you have. But mine's 0.09 inches or 2.5 millimeters, and I've got that set. So you'll see that on the screen before you start cutting once you set that blade. How you set the blade is push and hold the blade button until blade appears, then use the wheel to roll to the correct measurement, and then hit the enter key. From there, you can start cutting. I want to cut 4 5-inch pieces and see how they stack up. Are they going to be exactly right? Now I'm going to use decimals here because I believe that the fractions, you know, a 16th, an 1/8, like I think that's going to throw too much error in there. So I'm going to use the 0.00 in inches and get them as close as we can get them. So I made 4 cuts at 5 inches. One of them slipped to 0.01 right when I was cutting it, if you can see that on the video. And you can tell that one is slightly higher. I don't think necessarily that's a bad thing. I think that it shows how accurate this thing is. Pretty neat so far. One thing I have noticed while cutting is that you have to hold it just right if you're looking for that precise measurement. For most projects, that 0.01 of an inch probably won't matter much. But if you're holding this thing nice and steady, it'll cut exactly where it says it's going to cut. I like that. So I tried a longer piece at 46 inches and it come out at 46 inches, so pretty cool. Actually slightly under 46, 45.99 is what I wound up when I made the cut, and you can see it is just ever so slightly under 46. One thing about this unit is if you don't want to take it off so you don't have to recalibrate, but you don't want it in your way, it does snap up out of the way. That gives you 3 7/8 inches of clearance, probably about 3 13/16 safely. So plenty enough for a 4x4 or 3.5 inch block like that will go under there easily. You can also set this in miter mode by just tapping the power button. When that starts flashing, you push the gear button or the saw blade button, the measurement button, to change the angle. It'll go 5 degrees, 10, 15, 22.5, 31.6, 35.3, 40, 45, 50, 55, and 60 before cycling back around. So if we was doing 45-degree miters and you wanted to get those measurements, this is how you would do that. Push that left button to set it. Tells you right up there on the top that it's a 45-degree angle that you're going to be cutting, and we're in feet and inches at this time. And on 45 degrees to the right, to the right here, it does clear this machine just barely, but it does clear that at 45, but I couldn't go much further than 45 with this in place. This sets the same way. When we get into position, we're going to cut our 45-degree miter. We're going to hit that 0 button to 0 it out. So if I know I needed a piece that's 5 inches inside to inside measurements, then all I have to do is move this down till it's size 5 inches, move my miter, and cut. And then this will be 5 inches exactly. So if I wanted to make a miter that's 8 inches long from outside to outside, all I would do is put the point of the board on the edge of that blade, 0 that out, move 8 inches, then make our cut. So I made 4 cuts, 2 using by hand, 2 using the Recon. The by hand cut is just over 4 inches on that one, just over 4 inches. These are exactly the same. The Recon, exactly 4 inches. Exactly 4 inches. So as far as getting precision 4 inches, I got it right here, just barely over, probably a 32nd over by hand. But it was much, much faster to use the Recon versus measuring each piece by hand. However, for short pieces, I love this little thing. It works really well and it's really accurate. But for long, repetitive pieces where I'm gonna be cutting the same piece over and over and over, I'm gonna use my stop block system as long as it's up to about 6 feet, I think is what I got on here. So I would prefer to do it that way. But for small pieces, this thing is handy as a shirt pocket. You know what's more awesome than this tool? You subscribing to this channel. Click the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it, and then select all so you get notified of all the new content. Okay, come on. Now, I tested this with a bunch of different pieces at different sizes and just different angles to see exactly how well this thing was going to work. And here are the pros and cons, in my opinion. So what are the pros of this Recon M1? Well, if you're cutting multiple parts of different sizes, I think this will speed up your process a lot because you don't have to measure each piece. And even cutting the same pieces or the same length pieces over and over and over, this will be helpful to get that precision that you're looking for. It's easy to set up, it's fast to set up, and it works on miters and 90-degree cuts. So you're gonna be good on all those aspects. Another pro but con, I would think, is this storage case. It's a nice foam case. It is attached, so you're not going to lose that lid. I do like that they gave us this, a hard case, hard plastic sustainer style case. We're in the territory of a top end tool, and I think a more permanent case would have been nice versus this foam, but I do like that they give you the foam, so kind of a toss up there. Here are the drawbacks to this system. Number one, if there's a knot or any imperfection in the wood, it will cause an inaccuracy because the wheel's traveling further over the same distance because of the dip or the hump, depending on which way your knot goes. The second con is if that wheel isn't kept clean, in other words, a small piece of wood sticks to it because it is a little grippy, then you're going to get an inaccuracy as it rolls over that piece. So the exact precision that you're wanting from this will depend on clean, straight boards and a clean wheel. The third con, in my opinion, is the price. At $149, this is not for everyone. I don't recommend it for everyone. If you're trying to make a bunch of precision cuts and you don't have a stop block system, especially if you have a miter stand that rolls around or is portable or job site to job site, then this may work well for you. In my shop, in my opinion, my stop block system works just fine, and I don't think I would need to spend $149 on this other than for this video because I bought it so you didn't have to. I also don't think that the weekend woodworker needs this in their shop. I think a tape measure will work just fine. Is this a luxury item and nice to have? Absolutely. This is a really nice piece of equipment. Don't get me wrong. If you can afford it and it's within your budget and it's something you want on your miter saw, then you will be happy with this because it works so well. Been impressed with it actually. But it just at this price point, it's not something you need, it's more of a want. Another con, is minor as it is they didn't give you batteries. 2 AA batteries is not gonna cost them much at all, especially buying in bulk. And I had to go get my own, which is fine, but at $150, throw us a bone or two here at 2 AA batteries. I mean, come on. I have a wild guess that they intended to put batteries with this because the case actually has a place for those batteries, but maybe not. Maybe they're just giving us that. I don't know. The tool is well made. It's easy to use. Again, just read the instructions. I like how easy it is to take on and off the miter saw so that it's not always there and always in the way. So I really like that aspect of it. And overall, I think they've done a really good job with this. I think the price is a bit high, but I'm also not privy to the research and development time and cost that went into making this. I can tell that it's well made and they didn't cheap out on it, in my opinion. So is this a gimmick or the real deal? I think it's the real deal if it's within your budget and it's something you want on your miter stand. I don't have any hesitation to recommending it for those people. The flickering you might see on some of the video footage, you're not gonna see that in real life. That's just because the phone frame rate isn't synced with the refresh rate of that LCD screen. That's why you're seeing that. If you'd like to pick one of these up for yourself, I'll link to it in the description and the pinned comment so you can find it easier. If you need to make repetitive cuts over and over and over and you don't wanna buy this, check out my stop block system that I have on my saw. I've got a video on that right there. Click in the box, get you the big old virtual fist bump. Also, if you wanna know how to build an awesome miter stand, that video is right there.